For centuries, a single piece of linen cloth has held the world in its thrall. It is known as the Shroud of Turin. This long, rectangular cloth measures over 14 feet in length and bears the faint, mysterious image of a man who appears to have been crucified. The image is haunting. It shows the front and back of a tall, bearded figure, his body marked by wounds that seem to tell a story of immense suffering. Wounds consistent with scourging, a crown of thorns, and crucifixion. For millions, this is not just any man. They believe it is the burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth, the central figure of Christianity. To understand the shroud, we must first turn to the ancient texts that describe the event it purports to represent. The Gospels of the New Testament provide a detailed account of the death and burial of Jesus. According to the scriptures, his crucifixion took place on a Friday, just before the beginning of the Jewish Sabbath. The Sabbath, a day of rest, began at sunset. This created a profound sense of urgency. Jewish law dictated that the body of an executed person could not remain exposed overnight, and all burial preparations had to be completed before the Sabbath started. The Gospel of John tells us that a man named Joseph of Arimathea, a secret disciple of Jesus, bravely went to the Roman governor Pontius Pilate to ask for the body. Pilate granted his request. Joseph, along with another follower named Nicodemus, took the body down from the cross. They had to work quickly. They brought with them a mixture of myrrh and aloes, a huge quantity, about 100 pounds, to anoint the body. The modern scientific story of the Shroud of Turin truly began in 1978. A team of American scientists, known as the Shroud of Turin Research Project, or STURP, was granted unprecedented access to the relic. For 5 days, they worked around the clock, conducting a battery of non-destructive tests. They used spectroscopy, infrared thermography, and X-ray fluorescence to analyze the cloth and its mysterious image. Their findings were astonishing. The team concluded that the image was not a painting, not a scorch, and not a photograph. The STURP team also confirmed the presence of blood. The reddish stains on the cloth, located where the wounds of crucifixion would be, were identified as real human blood. However, a decade later, the narrative took a dramatic turn. In 1988, a small sample was cut from a corner of the shroud and sent to 3 separate laboratories for radiocarbon dating. The results came back with a stunning consensus. The linen dated from the period between 1260 and 1390 AD. The shroud, it seemed, was a medieval creation. Into this long and complex debate steps a new voice with a fresh perspective. Dr. Kelly Kearse is not a theologian or a historian, but a scientist with a deep background in cellular biology. A retired research scientist from the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Kearse has spent his career studying the intricate workings of cells and biological processes. He approached the shroud not with preconceived notions of faith or skepticism, but with the curiosity and rigorous methodology of a laboratory scientist. Dr. Kearse was intrigued by the inconsistencies in the existing research. On one hand, you had the STURP team's data suggesting the image was not a simple forgery, and that real blood was present. He decided to revisit the fundamental question: what would blood from a traumatized body actually look like on linen cloth under ancient burial conditions? His approach was different from those who had come before him. Many previous studies had focused on the image itself or the dating of the cloth. Dr. Kearse chose to focus on the blood. He knew that blood is not a simple substance. It is a complex fluid containing red blood cells, platelets, and a liquid component called plasma, which itself is rich in proteins like albumin and fibrinogen. He hypothesized that the blood from a victim of severe trauma, like crucifixion, would behave differently than simple, fresh blood applied to a cloth in a laboratory. Dr. Kearse's investigation was not based on theory alone. It was grounded in rigorous, hands-on experimentation. He set out to simulate the conditions described in the biblical account of Jesus' death and burial. To do this, he used human blood that was allowed to clot naturally, mimicking the physiological state of blood after death. As Dr. Kearse examined his experimental bloodstains on the linen, he noticed a fascinating and consistent pattern emerging. Around the central dark red area of the blood clot, a faint, almost invisible ring began to form. Under normal light, this serum halo was extremely difficult to see, but Dr. Kearse had a hunch. He knew that serum proteins fluoresce or glow under ultraviolet light. The result was breathtaking. Around each dark bloodstain, a distinct, brightly glowing halo appeared. This was the signature he was looking for. The serum, invisible in normal light, was clearly visible under UV radiation. This was a direct physical consequence of wrapping an unwashed, traumatized body in cloth. The next logical step was to look for this same signature on the Shroud of Turin itself. Dr. Kierce turned to the vast archive of scientific data collected by the STURP team in 1978. When Dr. Kierce examined these high-resolution UV images, he found exactly what his experiments predicted. Around the bloodstains on the shroud, faint fluorescent halos were clearly visible. Dr. Kierce's discovery of serum halos does more than just explain a scientific phenomenon. It builds a powerful bridge to the ancient world and its customs. The findings provide compelling new support for the biblical account of Jesus' burial. The Gospels describe a rushed process, one that skipped the traditional Jewish ritual of washing the body. Dr. Kierce's findings on serum halos present a direct and powerful challenge to earlier theories, most notably Dr. Frederick Zugibe's washing hypothesis. This new evidence effectively turns the washing hypothesis on its head. The very features that Dr. Zugibe interpreted as signs of washing are now shown to be signatures of an unwashed body. The Shroud of Turin did not simply appear in the 21st century. It has a long and debated history. Its first verifiable appearance was in the 1350s in the small town of Lire, France. The Catholic Church has never officially declared it to be the authentic burial cloth of Christ. The Church's official position is one of careful neutrality. In the end, Dr. Kelly Kierce's research does not prove the Shroud of Turin is the burial cloth of Jesus. Science cannot prove a miracle or an article of faith, but it does provide powerful new corroborating evidence. It shows that the biological data encoded in the bloodstains is remarkably consistent with the unique and specific circumstances described in the New Testament. The presence of serum halos makes it more plausible from a scientific standpoint that the cloth wrapped a traumatized, unwashed body shortly after death. The shroud remains an object of profound mystery, but thanks to modern science, its silent story is beginning to speak more clearly than ever before.